All right, let's dive right into this really fascinating essay from the 16th century philosopher Michel de Montaigne. Now, he was wrestling with a problem in education that honestly, it feels like it could have been written yesterday. And it's all about that huge difference between just knowing a lot of facts and actually understanding anything.
So where does this all start for him? Well, it begins with a character he noticed when he was just a boy. A type of person you might even recognize today, actually. This character brings up a really deep paradox about what it even means to be educated.
I mean, think about that. He goes to the theater, and the character who's the butt of every single joke, the one everyone's laughing at, it isn't the clumsy servant or the simple farmer. No, it's the most educated person on the stage, the teacher, the scholar. And seeing this over and over sparked a question in his mind that is, I think, just as relevant today as it was 450 years ago.
And there it is. That's the central puzzle that Montaigne is trying to solve. How can someone know so much, be filled to the absolute brim with information from the greatest minds in history, and yet understand so little about life itself? How can a head that's just jam-packed with knowledge coexist with a mind that is, for all practical purposes, totally empty?
So how does a person even become a learned fool? Well, Montaigne's diagnosis of the problem is what he called knowledge on loan. He saw an education system that basically treats knowledge as something you just borrow, right? Something you hold temporarily at the tip of your tongue, but that you never really own in your soul.
He uses such a powerful metaphor here. He sees these scholars not as learners, but more like couriers, They just fly around, gather up information, carry it back, and then just regurgitate it for other people. They never digest it themselves, never let it actually nourish them. The knowledge just passes right through them, but it never, ever becomes a part of them.
And this just nails the core of the issue, doesn't it? Anyone can repeat what they've read. A machine, or as Montaigne puts it, a parrot, can recite facts and quotes all day long. But that's just mimicry. It's not wisdom. The real test of an education isn't about what Aristotle or Plato said. It's about what you think. What have you concluded after actually wrestling with their ideas?
So this is the big split. On one side, you've got an education of memory. That's all about borrowing, reciting, and just stuffing your head with facts. But on the other side, you have an education of judgment. And that is all about truly owning what you learn, making it yours, and then using it to better navigate the world.
Okay, so if endless memorization is the problem, what on earth was Montaigne's solution? Well, it all comes down to a single, really powerful ability that he believed was the true goal of learning: forging your own independent judgment. For Montaigne, judgment is the master skill. It's like the magic trick that turns the raw data of information into the gold of real personal wisdom. He argued that the whole point of learning isn't to fill the mind, it's to form it, to create a mind that's actually capable of thinking for itself. So, how do you actually do that? Well, he believed learning has to be an active, almost physical process. First, you have to engage with ideas directly, to taste them, as he says, not just swallow them whole. Then you have to work them into your own way of thinking, make them a part of your own mental furniture. And finally, and this is crucial, you have to test them out in the real world, through your actions and your life. Does this idea actually work? Does it hold up? Does it make you a better person?
Now, Montaigne wasn't just theorizing about all this from his study. He actually looked to history for a real-world example of his ideal education system, and he found one in a place you might not expect.
He really admired the ancient Persians. And why? Because their education system wasn't about memorizing books. It was about building virtue. They didn't force children to learn letters. Instead, they trained them to be good and just and brave citizens. The curriculum really was life itself, and the whole point was to build character, not just a bigger vocabulary.
There's this fantastic story that illustrates this perfectly. So you've got a big boy with a small coat, and he forcibly swaps it with a small boy who has a big coat. Young Cyrus is asked to judge the situation, and he says the swap should stand because, hey, now both boys have coats that fit them, but his teacher punishes him for it. Why? Because he only considered the practical outcome, the fit, instead of the fundamental principle of justice, who owned which coat. That's a lesson learned not from a textbook, but from a real-life moral dilemma.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Why does a critique of education from the 1500s matter more than ever in our super-modern, information-drenched world?
Well, it's because we are absolutely drowning in facts and data. In an age where you have infinite information at your fingertips, Montaigne's call to prioritize judgment over mere memory is, well, it's a lifeline. He's challenging us to see education not as a game of recalling data for a standardized test, but as the lifelong project of cultivating real discernment and critical thinking. He's asking us to be the master of information, not its parrot.
He reminds us that the ultimate goal isn't to know everything. I mean, that's impossible anyway, but to understand what truly matters. And in doing so, he leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. It's not about what you can know anymore. It's about how you choose to live with what you know. It's all about how you choose to be wise.